the video here and take as much time with this as you need. You might need a couple minutes, but you might need 10, 15 minutes. So whatever it is, you might want to pause the video here, but it's up to you. But just face your shadow, write down all of those elements of your personality that you don't like. Maybe you don't like that you're short-tempered. Maybe you don't like that you feel you're manipulative. Maybe you don't like that you feel like a victim. Maybe you don't like that you feel you don't have enough courage. Whatever it is. And some of these things, maybe these are things that you've been afraid to acknowledge before. But whatever they are, just take this time to give yourself permission to identify your shadow. So take as much time as you need with that, but we're going to keep moving forward here. So look at your list and just know that as you've made this list, you've already started bringing these aspects of yourself into the light. And as you bring them into the light, so too can they be transformed. So your soul right now, as you made that list and as you signaled to the universe that you were serious, that you were committed to this transformation, it is using the entirety of your experience and bringing the entirety of your experience into focus. And I want you to realize that everything that you just written on that paper, even though from a human perspective, in your own mind, you might have judged it as unworthy, you might have judged it as something that you don't like, but everything that you just wrote down there, you can love about yourself. So if you wrote down that you're stupid, you can love that part of yourself that feels stupid. If you wrote down that you're angry, you can love that anger within yourself. If you wrote down that you're lazy or you don't get enough done, you can love that part of yourself. So, and if you have trouble with that, if you have trouble accepting that, go back to our child metaphor. Go back to the idea of we don't stop loving a child because they do something we don't like. Well, just because you might not like an element of your personality doesn't mean it's not worthy of love. So just apply the thought that everything I have written is equally worthy of love. You might want to go back to that over the coming days and just continue to love all of those parts of yourself that you think are vulnerable, that you think are unlovable, that you think don't deserve love. And you are going to be so surprised at the transformation and what this sparks inside of you. So now that we've identified our shadow self, we begin to face our shadow fully. This is the same thing as saying we are ready to live visibly. We are ready to live with the whole of our being on display. And you've applied the principle that I can love all of these aspects of myself. But now, say to yourself, as I possess each of these traits, so too do I possess their opposite. As I possess each of these traits, so too do I possess their opposite. And what this does is it begins to activate your inner strength. It begins to encourage you to grow, expand, unleash a deeper part of yourself. And so to rectify the parts of ourselves that we don't like, let's begin to accept what Debbie Ford says when she writes, we have to uncover, own, and embrace. Uncover, own, and embrace. I love that. Uncover, own, and embrace all of who we are. The good, the bad, the dark, the light, the strong, the weak, the honest, and the dishonest. If you believe you are weak, you must seek out its opposite and find your strength. If you are ruled by fear, you must go within and find your courage. If you are a victim, you must find the victimizer inside you. It is your birthright to be whole. It only takes a shift in your perception and an opening of your heart. So right now, let's just consider our shadow and just open up. I could have a shift here. I could have a change. I could see this differently. I could love the whole of who I am. I could love every trait and its polar opposite, and realize that the distinction between that is human-made. And just know that by even watching this video, you are taking the first step to seeking out everything that you need to be whole and complete. Because what you are doing is saying to yourself, I am going to love the farthest reaches of you. I am going to love the darkest corners of myself. I am going to accept all those dark passengers that I've been repressing and denying and telling them that they aren't good enough. And I'm going to move forward in a new way. Part of facing our shadow is realizing what we're most afraid of. Most of us can handle failure and misery because we know what it feels like. We're intimately familiar with our failures and intimately familiar with our miseries. And we know that we can get through them. But what about being content? What about being successful? What about having money? What about having a great relationship? What about our light? What about being prosperous? What about being abundant? For many of us, that's much scarier. You know, in her song, Hands, by Jewel, she writes, "Light is the darkness most fear." And that means that sometimes light can be our shadow. Sometimes our success, the power contained within us, is what we fear. This is what Marianne Williamson meant when she wrote, "Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that frightens us most." So your shadow might be your capacities to succeed. So if that's the case, just step into your light right now and just accept it. Now that we've faced our shadow and identified our shadow, it's about loving the whole of our being. So we've worked on this some, but let's just do an affirmation here. Just close your eyes and get comfortable. And just consider your shadow. And I want you to apply and just say the following affirmation in your mind. I am perfect. I am infinite. I am divine. I am whole. I approve of the whole of my being. One more time. I am perfect. I am infinite. I am divine. I approve of the whole of my being. And go back to that affirmation as you work through facing and confronting your shadow. I want to thank you so much for having the courage to watch this video, for having the courage to face your shadow, and for having the courage to make room for the magnificent light of your soul to illuminate everything that you do.